Did you see the?
Yeah, pass the donuts.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Right now, we have no one on Zoom, but Bev said she was away,
Okay.
and you guys gave Elise a pass, a good pass, I mean, she's
Yeah.
dealing with a lot right now.
All set?
I think we are.
Open our December 3rd meeting. Two of the three select board members are here, Amy Lappin, Ron Eberhard. Elise is not here, and we have several department heads. We'll open the meeting with the minutes.
I saw no.
Ron sent me a couple typos.
Oh, good, I missed those.
Yep.
They looked good to me, so.
Okay, motion,
I will make a motion that we accept the minutes.
second. In favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment. Heard something out there, didn't
I think it was the chair.
Oh.
Do you really wanna know what it was? It's
Like anybody
Is it you? Well, I believe Melissa just drove into our garage, and so the camera said somebody just came to your house.
Oh,
She just left here, so she was traveling time
It's a little
home.
suspicious, given that it's not broad daylight. Is there public comment? No, okay. Moving on to department reports, does anybody care to go first? Okay, Brett.
So building wise, sort of had our first dose of winter, and so I worked with Richie and did some road plowing. And technically, I'm trying to do all the building plowing and shoveling. But they needed some help on some roads, and then they ended up finishing, and so they, it ended up, we all worked till it was all done. But we'll get a little more efficient, but other than that, it went reasonably well, I think. We had the buildings open when they needed to be, and so that thing worked. Highway garage roof, I had the first walkthrough with Twin State Roofing about that project. He's gonna get me a proposal. He seemed quite interested in it, and we're gonna do an ad in the paper to broadcast the RFP. Let's see, other building things. Got a number back on the parking lot lights for Philip Reed Library. One is broken, and the other two, it was challenging to get bulbs. Those bulbs are out. I'm back to hunting for bulbs because the price of a new head for an LED was $3,000.
And we need three.
We have three of them, and so I had hoped we'd convert, it might cost a few $100, but then we'd be in the LED world, which would be energy
Wow.
efficient. So not sure what to make of that. There's a couple of options, but now I've established what fixture it is, and although I have to go through two levels of distribution to get an answer from the factory, there may be a replacement piece. That's my current hope. But in the meantime, I'm chasing bulbs, so we can get at least some light back there. There are lights on the building that light up when people come in. They aren't great for the far side of the parking lot. We tried one tripod light. It wasn't quite bright enough. Jim came up with another one, and I believe they're using that. The reality is they're closing at 7, so, you're talking about an hour or so, given night that then, well, now it's getting to be a couple, 3 hours, but.
But isn't it 6? Isn't the latest they go?
I was, as soon as I said that, I was
Right, I
thinking,
think-
I've got old hours,
Right,
because
well,
today I
you're
was
plowing.
9 and it's 9:30, and
Right.
anyway. So that part of it is moving along. Got shelving brackets for PD in the evidence room that took a little longer to order, but they just came in, so now I'm set to build a couple of shelves up there. And we've got a shade on order that I've not heard about, but at some point it will arrive for the back window. We did one a couple of years ago. And now we'll pick up that one. Let's see. The water department, we got our notices out by the deadline. We had the arsenic was above level, and we had to do a required notice. It's not an emergency, but we are required to notice, and that notice went out. And we actually used that opportunity because we also had to, by December 1st, do the lead and copper notification on our annual progress report of what we're doing in our advising engineering group had already posted the fact that there continue to be all unknowns for our service lines, which is fine. We actually know about 50 of them, so more than half or more than a third of our district we've already identified in the process of replacing water meters. That's a good segue into the fact that that water meter replacement is ongoing, and Frank, I just gave him 5 more numbers today. He's got a bunch of time between now and when he leaves in January for Florida, so we're gonna try and see if we can get all of the next 40 done. We may or may not get it. That will bring us to 80 total, which is a year ahead of schedule, but so far we're at least as good as we planned and maybe a little ahead, and we'll take it from there. Let's see. Other than shoveling much of the day, my mind's a bit of a blur.
I mean, we are now into the winter mode, as Brad said, and basically, you know, Kevin has said, I don't have enough help either, and so I can't help you.
Right.
So we're on our own, and so, Rich is I told Rich not to come tonight. He was just wiped out. I mean, he's dealing with his own health issues and he's tired and he's just, it's too much right now for him. The new Mack truck, made it one trip down Penniman Road and then all lights came on and, so they are coming with a wrecker to take it back to somewhere in southern New Hampshire where there's a Mack dealer. No cost to us, obviously.
Obviously.
What the expectation is,
Did we already put the hole in the other one?
right, well, what the expectation is that the problem surfaced as soon as Rich got it. I mean, Rich is driving it. He's
Yeah.
plowing with it.
Mhm.
As soon as it got out into the slop, that the outfitter who put the body on and the plow equipment and all that, as we've seen in police cruisers and other trucks, drilled a hole in a wire somewhere and now there's a short. Because the truck continues to function, but every emergency alarm in the truck goes off. And so you can't ride in it because it's beeping and hollering at you and carrying on. So O'Connor is coming to get it, promising to make it right very quickly. But as much as we love new, we are finding that, I mean, the chipper, right? How many times did we say we gotta have a new chipper? Chipper's down all the time. So
So do we have a backup truck if that one's leaving by record?
well, we have more trucks than we have drivers, so we're okay.
Okay.
We have Rich's scheduled next week to cut a hole in the engine block. Our specialty, as it turns out, with truck 4, which is the one that is the Mack replaces.
Okay.
We have to, literally a person from the state drives up and watches us cut the hole.
Well, don't cut it until we get the other one back.
They also cut it in half, by the way, the frame.
yes, that is true. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yes, they do. They cut it in
Uh-huh.
half and and I won't blather on about it, but one of the challenges with Rich is going to be that we are disposing of this truck. We're
Yeah.
not saving this truck. You know, there are parts that
There's
he'd
good
like,
doors on it there.
right?
There's good doors.
Yeah,
on
no,
it.
he wants the doors.
Mhm.
He wants the doors and he wants some other parts to put in inventory. But the hulk of the truck needs to go away. It cannot just sit somewhere. We have all of that we can do, but I think they got through the storm pretty good. One of the weaknesses, and I'll consider this highway run, one of the weaknesses we found. And, you know, Casella is all fouled up all over town. It will be Friday before they get it cleaned up and straight. But their contract requires them to pick the toters up at the end of your driveway.
Mhm.
They have, like you might do with a new puppy, they have trained the puppies to move in many of
Across
the
the
roads,
street.
to move them across the
Yeah.
street, because it's more convenient for them, saves
Yes.
them miles. Well, except when you put it on the other side of the street and then the Plainfield plow comes along and just puts the toter right over the bank, garbage, recycling and all. And so that's unacceptable in the winter. The residents have to put it at the end of their driveway. Our guys can't get around them with the plow truck. So we had a big to-do about that today, and we're working through it. But apparently our wing is really good at sending toters over the bank. And so it's not all roads. But any road where they could save a quarter mile, they have encouraged the residents to run them over. And what I've said to them, look, if you guys wanna run them across the road and pick them up, that's great. But you gotta put them back. They need to be at the end of the people's driveways. And so it's,
So I have a question about that.
What do you
because I almost saw one of their men get hit today on Willowbrook Road. Because they don't have the arm that's doing the toters like
Right,
they
they-
said, they have
right,
little people doing
they
it.
are clearly down a truck as well as this. You know, this is the first snowstorm. The first snowstorm happened to hit with a week when we were doing the toters, because it could have been another week. It just wasn't. It was this week. And for whatever reason, Monday, before the snow was even arrived, it's clear that Casella has lost one of their two trucks. They must have a repair, something going on. So trash was being picked up with the arm. Recycling was being picked up in the conventional way, which is miserable for the workers, miserable. I mean, they gotta
Well, it's
just,
dangerous,
and so-
clearly.
so it's been a throwback week. We have been thrown back quite a ways, but working out. Rich, I think Rich feels like Brad's help was very helpful in terms of getting through the storm. We did have, and so it's gonna be slower. It's just is gonna be slower, but we got through this one okay. Given that he, our brand new truck didn't run and we had trash toters all over the place. We're working through, but Rich is doing fine. But I told him to go home and stay home tonight. Don't come back. And I knew Elise was gonna be away, so we wouldn't make any large decisions tonight anyway, so.
Nancy's in the waiting room.
Nancy Norwalk, well, then let's get her out of the waiting. So, so that's highway, got facilities and highway.
Fire,
Fire department, so we've done the paperwork for the truck from Hanover, but it's still sitting up in Hanover. They haven't had the time to get it in the shop to change anything over yet. So as usual, we see here the next week. We've been having at least 2 car accidents at calls a day. Earlier, a few days ago, I mean, we can't really take credit. We had the dementia person walk away. Yes, we surfaced within the hour, but no help to us. He was trying to break into a neighbor's house because he was lost and cold. So that's how we actually found him and got him back in less than an hour. He was rattling the back door on someone else's house and they didn't know who he was.
Wow.
That's about it for fire. Today I submitted to the state the 3 school inspection reports that are due by the 15th. So those are all in and done. No one's perfect, so I tried to document it that way, because if you just always hit the S box, it makes them wonder whether you're actually doing an inspection. Yeah, that's about it for fire.
Stephanie,
Hi, hope everybody had a great turkey day. Big shout out to our local 4-H leadership group. They made 40 loaves of holiday breads that were given out at the food pantry, and everybody really enjoyed them. So thank you for those young people helping our community.
And excuse me, Steph, which group was that?
The 4-H leadership group.
4-H leadership.
Food pantry's open tomorrow. And KUA holiday luncheon is next Thursday, starting at 11:15 at the Student Center. I did make note on the town website that January 1st actually falls on the first Thursday of the month, so we will not be hosting the food pantry that day. We'll be pushing it off to the 8th. And so that's that. Everything is busy, but manageable at this time.
Thank you.
Chief, just your report and then we'll segue right into the traffic safety.
Okay. So for the month of November, total calls for service were 138, with 9 motor vehicle accidents, 4 motor vehicle complaints. We had 23 directed enforcement patrols and 9 call outs for the month. We are continuing to purge the evidence storage room of outdated and unnecessary items to better organize the room. As Brad said earlier, he'll be working on putting shelves up there so we can organize the room better and clean it up. For our community event for the end of the month, we assist with the annual turkey trot, providing emergency lights along the route, cruising up and down to make sure traffic was aware that people were on the roadway and everybody had a safe time on the route. That's all I have for the updates for PD.
Okay, thank you. Ready for this?
Sure. So the one comment by Liz Davini called and said she was gonna try to get over. We'll see if she she makes it. The one comment I received was from folks on Harriman Road who were hoping their road, which is not in the village area, but is up at the top of Methodist Hill, that their, road could be included in the 25 mile an hour plan, if you will.
So I have a question about that. Wouldn't you just change all of the little dirt roads to 25 miles an hour, not necessarily just what was on the list, or are you gonna leave? Some of them at
That's what the
35.
idea was, cause I know someone came forward and said, well, what about Hayward and Westgate? Because some people came, like, posted on our Facebook
Yeah.
page requesting that as well. But I was, we can't name obviously every single road, but the idea was all the dirt roads should be down to 25 to eliminate erosion and slow down the traffic.
Westgate and Hayward are partially paved and partially dirt. Well, I don't know when Westgate turns to, but anyway,
No one does.
yeah.
Somewhere up there near Kenya.
Right, I would suggest that would be an improvement if it was slowing, but the speed limit was slowed down there on both of those.
I mean, is there any reason not to just make all of Plainfield's roads 25?
And I mean, that's
All of the roads?
all.
Well, I mean, like,
all the
if you
town
select up all, I mean, we don't have control over the state roads.
Right,
But,
right.
but I mean, if you went all, if the folks on Harriman, they want 25, or at least the folk, I think the guy that generates the most traffic, which I thought was interesting, because it's an equestrian center. But, I mean, I throw it out there, I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, it's just, is there a reason why Westgate and the Village should be 25 and Harriman shouldn't be?
Well, I mean, would that include like Stage Road?
No, can't be the state roads.
Oh, because that's the state road.
Right, it
Yep,
would, so it would,
yeah.
Willowbrook's just not a state road, right? But
right, I mean,
you wouldn't wanna change that.
No.
right, no,
Yeah,
that's,
I don't-
yeah, we want to let people get going good and fast before they go down over the banks.
I mean, a recommendation for Willowbrook would be some curved signs or something like that, so people are aware, but. Cause there's no streetlights or anything out there, so people.
Well,
are
in,
not
in
going out
terms
there.
of an enforcement issue, I mean, part of what I think would be useful to know is it a two-pronged thing we're doing here? One is additional signage and public awareness that the roads are 25. And also, are you looking for a document that improves your enforcement if you have to write a ticket? In terms of seeing a judge? I mean, it's easier to say all roads in town are 25 except for,
Right, but if you.
or to say, to list them all and realize you forgot one.
Well,
And, I mean, but what do you, well, I mean, is part of it so you can write tickets at 35?
So what happens is if there's no signage, so an operator doesn't know what the speed limit is, how can we enforce a speed limit that we know, but it's not physically posted for they have awareness that this is the speed limit?
I think it's an excellent mapping exercise to take your road networks and each road segment and understand where your speed zones are. And then ask yourself, is this an appropriate speed for this? Would you like to put it in the umbrella of 25? And then see where that filter ends out, because I think ultimately you want to have looked at every road segment and given some judgment about it, rather than a blanket
Yeah.
statement that misses one or includes one inadvertently, stuff
Right.
like that. There is I don't think that's a monster project, and it might be a good Mark Goodwin project.
I mean, if you look at the paved roads that are sort of, Willowbrook is clearly the big town commuting road. Because of Kimball Union and just people leaving from Meriden Village to go to the jobs in Lebanon that aren't up 120 or 12A. River Road, I guess, is another, I mean, it's flat, mostly paved and speeds there, I mean. I don't think anybody would drive 25 all the way down River Road anyways, but speeds over 35, if you're going by the dairy. Out to 12A would be right on the edge, right? If you were doing 35 down through McNamara Dairy Country these days, that would be as fast as you'd wanna go.
What's the difference between the dirt roads and the paved roads?
Question?
On the speed, I can see the dirt road being 25 because in my road, people go like 50. On the paved road, most of it, isn't it like 30? Or more,
I mean,
40?
the default speed limit is 35.
Yeah,
If it's not marked some other way, the assumed speed limit is 35 miles an hour, I think, is
you
that
mean
right?
on dirt road?
Yes, yeah,
Yes, that's what we're looking to change. Because if there's no sign, then it's assumed that it's 35. When on the dirt roads, it should be assumed that all dirt roads in town should be 25 to slow down traffic, to eliminate wear and tear on the roads and erosion, keep
Yeah.
things. Like River Road is 35, but it's such a long road that signage is very sparse along that stretch, so. Stuff like that, along the roads like that would obviously need a little bit more. extra
What would
signage.
you think about taking the time? I'm not sure what your reaction to the idea of turning it into a deliberate process of looking at the road networks, understanding what the current seats are, looking at where our signs are, I mean, literally.
That's what-
looking them on map.
The
And
idea
then
was,
saying, hey, do you like this or should it change? Are you missing, here's the 35 that goes a mile and a half and it's easy for them to forget. Maybe they
Right.
need a reminder. I don't
Right.
know. But, I don't want to slow your,
no, that's what we were looking at too, because I was wanting to talk with the state as well, but they're short-staffed and trying to get
well,
all.
we are in the presence at this very moment. Ross Wood, who is the Assistant Director for New Hampshire DOT District Two, engineer. I don't wanna give you too much title, sorry. Ross also sits on our planning board.
I did talk to Rob.
And so tell us about. Roads are assumed 35 unless they're marked differently, and one of the changes recently is that selectmen can now establish speed limits where it used to be much harder.
I admittedly don't, the Bureau of Traffic oversees signs
Right.
and speed limits, so I am not an expert on it.
Mhm.
My understanding is that there's only so many speed limits that are by statute, right? And anything other than those, like I think you said 55 or 35. Anything else needs to have some kind of study, an engineering study behind it. It has to have a reason why, not just everyone feels like people drive too fast. There is a new RSA that there's now gonna be a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. I think the idea behind that is areas where it goes from like 50 to 35, 50 to 35, 50 to 35. So you want to just make it 45 the whole way through. I may be oversimplifying it, but.
That would be the 120 area that we
Mhm.
have a problem with.
And I'm sure that's not popular with people that live in the more congested, Village, East Plainfield or whatever, Meriden Village. But I just know it's something, it's a new option now that was recently passed. That may be something you might see starting to happen.
One of the things we're wrestling with tonight or talking about is gravel versus dirt. All roads 25 that aren't a state road in town, is there a reason to do that, not to do that?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Certainly, I think there's been broad support on the select board for 25 in the village areas, the Westgates, the Haywoods, the Chellis roads, the main streets. But we also are getting people expressing concerns for the roads that are like Harriman Road off of Methodist Hill, right? I mean, almost nobody goes on Harriman Road, but the people that live there feel like the traffic is too fast by their place. And so, one thought is, and I'm not sure it's a good thought, but one thought is make them all 25. I mean, when you come into Windsor, Vermont, they tell you in Windsor, speed limit's 25. And we're gonna pull you over for it, and they do. And so I don't know if that's the right or wrong answer either. Eric, Chief Gutzville brings up an interesting point, and that lower speeds on the gravel roads will reduce wear and tear if you can actually achieve lower speeds. It's hard. The sign in and of itself doesn't make you go 25. The guy running the car does, or the gal running the car, but those are the kinds of things we're talking about. I mean, in terms of, I know Kate on Daniels, you've had recently a very negative experience with traffic, right? I mean, you lost a dog, which is a member of your family, and so that's been an issue and a concern, and so. But your thought is improve signage and more, and just clarity as to what the speed limits are.
But also 25 where it's not posted is in this plan as well. Right?
Right, well, that's why I
So
say,
that's kind of what you're getting at, except if the reasons that things are posted higher, you know, so.
Right, I mean, part of what I have heard chiefs talk about is enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, like it's,
Yeah.
somebody contests a ticket, I need a document from the town that says these things. And so I just, as we sat here tonight, it occurs to me that it might be easier to write a document that listed the roads that aren't 25.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and if we missed one, 25 is the right way to have missed it, to the lower speed, not to the higher speed. But definitely, no one's considering Brook Road or River Road at 25, and there's probably others, if we thought about it. I mean, I don't know what your experience is, but right now, the places that. The road that we get the most concern about in town is Chellis Road.
Yeah.
Because people are coming off of 120, going way too fast. And they're either heading here into Meriden Village, or they're headed to Kimball Union. And the residents just feel like, and that's in the village, I guess, but the far end of Chellis is getting out of the village area a little bit. You know, I mean, Maria has brought up Hell Hollow is too fast. We've heard, you know, Daniels, Westgate, I've heard those a bunch. I don't know.
Well, like with everything, you can't look at a car and judge its speed, because if that was the case, every time a police officer went to court and said, well, that car was doing this, well, we need to measure that. So no one can possibly gauge speed by just looking at a car. It may seem nice going fast, it could be, it could not. There's no way to gauge it.
Right, and I think our general perception is when you run radar, the reported speeds are lower. People
Yeah.
think they're doing 50, they're really doing 35. I mean, most of us, if we drove our cars 35 on our gravel roads, we would have trouble staying on the road on corners.
Mhm.
35 is fast on a gravel road, it just is. I
Yeah.
mean, so a car that's doing 35 looks like it's doing 50. 'cause
Not to
it's-
mention during mud season, I've only been through one, and that probably makes it even worse.
Right, certainly gonna on your road, so.
But yes, we also like for Daniels Road and Chellis, like no through truck traffic on Daniels Road. Because there's a one lane bridge there, there doesn't need to be the extra weight and wear and tear on a bridge that the town is responsible for. Chellis Road, it was supposed to be set up where there was not supposed to be through traffic, there was gonna be a gate there. With an agreement with KUA, but because of emergency responses, that what didn't happen. But there's no reason why it should be a cut through to speed through to get to the center of town.
Right, it really. It boggles the mind why you would choose to go Chellis and not come down 120 and just come up Main Street. But
Yeah.
it is, I mean, and the bad accident you had this fall didn't even involve a need to be on Chellis, right? I mean, there was no place, it wasn't going to KUA, it wasn't going to any of the houses on Chellis. Just thought,
It was definitely a factor.
right, just thought it'd be fun to try the new truck on gravel. So it's,
But I mean, we have an obligation to the motoring public, but we also have an obligation to the citizens that live on these roads to make sure that they're safe.
Since all the roads aren't covered on this, then it seems like we got a couple of choices. Excuse me, one being to make the blanket 25 for the town. The other is to do what Brad has suggested or ask about the feasibility of, and that is to look at every single road and do it. Is that something that you're willing to do? Does that make sense to,
Yeah, we
as a
could do
next
that.
step?
It's predominantly gonna be coming down to the dirt roads going to 25. We already know that, but we can pinpoint and look at everything.
right, I mean, if you like the ones outside the Columbus Jordan Road. There's no reason to be going more than 25 miles an hour on Columbus Jordan Road and you're turning around and coming right back. And we have a bunch of those roads with dead ends. Or as we say in Plainfield, no outlets. We don't look at dead ends.
Nobody wants to live on a dead end.
No, that's exactly what John Yakavone told me when we put up a dead end sign on his road. And now it says no outlet.
All right. So we'll,
Do you guys have a thought on the trucking thing? That can be a big deal. But if you're good, I mean, Kate will remember it. There was a time when Daniels Road had no truck signs. I mean, the road.
I would have sworn last year it had a truck with some sign
Well,
on the.
and mud season have always had one.
Right, but we had some metal signs that the road agent had put up.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't popular. He may have been directed at the time to take them down because we had at least one member of the Board of Selectmen ran a trucking company. And didn't think they thought their taxes,
Yeah.
fact is they pay for registrations. They feel like they have a right to go on.
Yep.
Is that a ticketable offense if we post it that way?
Yes, so instead of reinventing the wheel, I researched New Hampshire towns for prohibited truck traffic, and Sunapee has it, Lyme has it. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I went and got the language from them and made a document for the town of Plainfield for no through traffic trucks ordinance article.
Okay.
And it's a fine that could be payable to the town. And I have here, result in a fine of $50 for a first offense, $100 for a second offense, and $250 for each subsequent offense.
And again, doesn't, I'll make some copies of this, doesn't, affect, I mean, you can have your fuel oil delivered, you can have your
Yep, as
cow,
long
mayonnaise.
as there is a destination on Daniels Road where a truck needs to get, whether it's an Amazon delivery, fuel delivery, they can go there. It's not, it's just the cut through aspect of it. Emergency vehicles can respond there. I think Rob had talked to you about limiting using that as a cut through for the fire trucks because it puts the wear and tear on the frames of the trucks because of the windiness. Farm equipment that is required to get there because there's fields there. But just, you know, dump trucks and carrying asphalt or gravel that just to cut through. Wouldn't be allowed to do that.
So would it be helpful? I mean, I haven't heard any objections to doing that, you know, and this is a public hearing to hear such things, and I haven't heard any before or tonight. It makes sense to me. I also know that you've looked at how long it actually takes to go down Daniels and to go stage, and you're really not saving the time that people, for whatever reason, feel they are. Would it be, I mean, we could vote on that piece, or do we want to do it as a whole, once the whole traffic?
Two things, it might make sense to do it as a whole. We also talked about with Elise not being
Yeah,
there waiting
Right,
for
not gonna
any
make a
of
decision.
this being a major decision, so if you're comfortable waiting yet, another meeting.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure the public was aware of what we were trying to do,
Yeah.
and if there was any, you know, ideas or thoughts against it, to get some input from the public that is gonna be eventually affected by
I
it.
mean, yeah, I've heard no objections.
Is it Chalice and Daniels, or those the two?
It's just something I wrote up with the language of our town
Yeah.
and stuff on there, just I didn't put any dates or anything on there, obviously, but.
The one thing that struck me, I don't know, I mean, a $50 fine sounds low to me,
Sounds what?
low. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, well, that
that's
can
sort of
always be
nice.
discussed because the other towns are like $1,000 fine for a first offense.
Okay, that seems high. So I feel like somewhere between.
Don't truck it home.
Yeah, and maybe 50 is just more of a warning, right? Like, but at that point, I
And
don't
that can
know.
always be discussed. This was just
Right, we
a
can totally
sample of what I
discuss that.
came up with, so.
Right.
But yes, there's other towns out there that have this in place, so it's not, it wouldn't be the first time.
Is Daniels the only road with a one small fragile bridge on it that?
Well, Willowbrook
Well,
has one, but they're
Sarah, yeah.
redoing it.
Grant
Willowbrook.
Mountain currently has a small.
Fragile bridge, right? No.
Yes, it's a bridge.
Is there
Something.
a thrasher?
I mean, I
Right.
think the unique thing about Daniels,
Is that us or is that Cornish?
it's combined. It was one of the first
I
municipally
know
designed.
the house on the opposite side of it is ours, cause I had to go there for a call.
Yeah, well, Ron just barely qualifies to be a Plainfield select by a few feet. And so he's just, I think Daniels has this unique feature in that it's tying, people think they're getting to the other state road quicker if they're
Yeah.
going south. Right, if they're gonna go, and we've all, as, for the years we've lived here, have done it. If a car splits and goes to Daniels and you take Stage Road, you end up at the end of Daniels, sometimes ahead of them when they come pop out at Daniels. I mean, there really isn't a savings,
Unless they're speaking.
right, but
Yeah,
people
well, there's
do,
that, yes.
people do try to go. And I think when we had Daniels, there's no through track trucks. It was for the very concern that Eric brings up about the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean,
And it was like that for a long, long time.
right, I mean, and those signs, I think, just went away, and we never ticketed, I think we saw them mostly as warning signs, suggested signs, whatever, but they were absolutely there, there was no question. I guess I wouldn't, again, another one I wouldn't think of as a cutoff but people will go up Westgate and go all the way to Hell Hollow.
Yeah,
makes no sense. Right, I mean, you gotta bang up over the, Kenyon Westgate intersect, where that all comes together and.
Yeah, people don't drive very fast up there, though. I think they're doing it for scenic.
Right, I mean, the Jordan corner, that 90-degree turn has eaten enough cars over the years that people know to slow down.
Yeah, I run up there a lot, and people are pretty respectful of going slow up there.
And you've worked hard to get up there, no matter how you got there, you banged your car up a little to get there, so
Yeah,
you,
that's
you wanna go easy. But I think Chalice, Daniels, Westgate, it's these cutoff roads where people think they're gaining something. That we seem to see concerns.
So if we do this next meeting with either the addition of specific roads or a blanket statement. And using this, the language that we know is legally legitimate. Do we need to do another public hearing?
Probably on an ordinance adoption, we would just make it part of the next, meeting as a hearing on the proposed, we'll, like we did with the traffic thing, we'll pop it up as a news item and just let people see it. We have it here at the town office. I think it's good policy but it's certainly within your purview as select board to make ordinances. I mean, that's one of your specific powers.
Other discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on this. I appreciate your response. On it.
Thank you.
The other I mean, of course, on your road, and as a runner, the Japanese knotweed makes the bridge impossible to
That
see.
stuff is awful.
You know,
There's a
you-
solution to that if you're looking for a challenging
Right.
task.
Oh, no, yeah, from
We've discussed that before.
from Stage Road,
Right.
in my lifetime, from Stage Road to Thrasher, the
Yeah.
Blow Me Down Brook has been
Yeah.
entirely engulfed in
Pretty
Japanese,
decimated.
Japanese knotweed.
In the fall, when it browns out, you get a sense of just
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
completely it has invaded that one.
And it's working its way now down the Connecticut River. You will see it on both sides of the river. Apparently you can eat it like asparagus in the spring. As it
Yeah.
grows up, you can try it, haven't. It's very sweet smelling when it's in blossom.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, but it is I mean, 10 years under plastic and it grows through the concrete. I mean, it's impressive plant.
Yeah, and that does affect, in the height of the summer, that affects the visibility of the.
Right, and highway has to go down and do exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is
Right,
chop
cut
it.
down.
But it's.
But the other
you can
thing
see.
about Daniels is that it's got the blind corner right
Yeah.
at my mailbox, which is where my dog was hit. People fly up, I mean, it's kind of fun to come up that hill and come swoop around the corner and. I mean, people do.
Right.
But it also, that road sees a lot of foot traffic. It's a really nice road right from town. People walk their dogs, they walk, they run. They bike. We have a lot of foot traffic on that road.
And I'm sure there's a loop that goes through the two fields, right? You get over to Westgate, loop around,
Yeah.
come through. You do see a lot of people walking
Yeah.
and you're right, that speed there, the steep hill by the Wheeler house,
Yeah.
it goes up.
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of fun to come down to.
I can't picture it. But that road used to go right by Ruth Ann Wheeler's house. I mean, that's why when you drive up to Ruth's house, or Ruth has passed, but the orientation of the building seems weird to the road. But there used to be a completely different configuration of Daniels Road than what it
Yeah,
is
used
now.
to Go right up our driveway to.
Right,
In
and
front of my.
the
house.
road must have made much more of a,
Biggest curve.
yeah, to get to, instead they just went right straight up the hill, with the next version.
Okay. On to the budget discussion.
Sure. And so our process going forward, and I had sent a copy of this out to, I'm not gonna go through the budget, I just wanna have some, that comes at another time. But we have, let's see. I have to rotate around here. I'm gonna go to the summary sheet, I think, if I can. Maybe I'll pass the summary sheet already. Where is the rotation? Here somewhere. Oh, I'll see that, Brad. Where would that be? Here. Usually, right there, you'd see a way to rotate that, but maybe I'm not gonna, maybe in whatever this viewer is, we're not gonna get it, but let me go through, I'll go to just the regular sheets then. Get down here
What
to,
browser this is?
this is Chrome. But,
Sometimes R. Firefox is R.
just, so, let me, let's run this down to here. So
So
what,
Acrobat, and it gives me a margin thing too.
right, and there's usually a little up there, and amongst all these choices, there's usually a little spot where you can rotate it a little bit, but we'll go to maybe 75, will get us a little better. A little better, so,
If you hit the two arrows that are up towards the right, does that give you more options? Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah,
see, that's why you, but for, now we know where it is, we'll
Okay.
use it. But we're gonna keep it right there for just a minute.
okay.
And so essentially, our process for the next couple of months is we meet next meeting with the finance committee. And we meet, between now and then, we have several meetings, and we'll be talking about the budget at each of those meetings. But essentially posted on the website, there's a couple of, packets there, you guys have the summary sheet, the very summary sheet that includes the entire package. So you have expenses less the reserve fund contribution, or including the reserve fund contributions, less the revenues. Gets you to, this is the number right now, and that's 124,566 or 6.4% increase in the net appropriation, 23 cents on the tax rate. I believe that will tighten up as we get closer. We're only in the first week of December, and so we will know more about how winter is treating us and how actual expenditures, as opposed to proposed expenditures, are going. What we have included in here, and we talked about this at the last meeting, and I took my direction from the board. We have a 3-member police department in the police line. And we have, and you see all the object codes in the detail, we have a 3-member police department with the expectation that we would not hire before the end of first quarter. Just that by the time we did the whole process, we would be at the end of first quarter if we had a candidate walk in practically now. Obviously, if somebody certified came in and was ready to get started, we would move that process along, and the budget would just have to absorb it. It's really hard in police and highway right now to budget, because we have open positions in both departments, and it's easy to just say, well, we won't budget for those and we'll make the numbers look good. But the reality is, those are positions that we believe we need. And so to not have them in the budget means you're not gonna have them for that entire period. And when you do add them back in, it makes, a significant increase. And we see a little of that in police this year because we pared that down last year. And so, there are no new positions proposed in the budget in terms of in any department. And in fact, I would say a contraction in the police department, because there would be 3 full-time officers, but no part-time, no admin assistant. In the town office, Michelle is gonna go to very part-time starting January, and Sarah Berman has been full-time for the last quarter, and she will continue to be full-time. Highway, we have been as big as 7. Rich only has 5 right now, and we're budgeting essentially for 6. We just say we're not going to get to 7 again, and we may not get to 6, but we're gonna see this winter what that means, because in the past, we've been outsourcing that work, and if we could find somebody that wanted to plow, we thought for just a minute. And I guess he hasn't told us no, he just hasn't told us yes. At one point, Boone Rondeau had indicated that he would, he's retired now from New Hampshire DOT. And he has a CDL license, and he would be interested in plowing, or be willing, if not interested, be willing to plow. But so it's always hard to budget when you don't have people, because you don't know what their health insurance needs are gonna be. You don't know, how many hours they're gonna work, if they're gonna, but we've tried like we did last year. It's the same situation. We've tried to make sure we had those positions funded in the way I've just described. We will be making in the next, I think the school may have already made it. Before the end of the year, there'll be an invoice, a check. It's already booked. It's in the accounting system. We'll be making a payment to the New Hampshire School Care for $26,000, which is the unanticipated assessment. I think at the school level, it's closer to $500,000. And at the town, it's 26,000. We are soliciting another proposal, as you can imagine, with school care, making a lot of negative press in the last month. And I want to be fair to those guys. They gave money back for years. We have received far more money back than we've been asked to pay in a special assessment. And that is the problem with the state muddling around and people getting involved, if they did it with the New Hampshire Municipal Association and the Primex and school care, they get concerned if they're holding too much money. But when they have catastrophic losses, and what that means is in school care's group, some people got cancer, some people got things that were very expensive to treat. And so school care, all these Primex, all of these organizations are self-funded for a huge percentage of the coverage. And so they have to pay those bills. And so I think school care on balance has been very, very good. Employees like it. It's their information is very clear in terms of the app that they provide and the way you access your healthcare and your prescriptions and all of that stuff. But we are soliciting at least one other proposal just to see what the market bears. There are some choices. We will be exposing our employees to a greater deductible this next year because the plan that we have now isn't gonna be offered by school care next year, so you can't get it. I checked with Beth at the school. Right now, on average, support staff for the school, which we've always modeled town staff after for healthcare, they're asked to contribute at a 7%. Some contribute 5% and some contribute 8%. The average is 7% of the premium. So we're looking, we'll be looking at that. Bev, who's not here tonight, but may be in, continues to provide us data that suggests our pay is under market in most positions in the town of Plainfield these days. Doesn't mean we can change that dramatically, but I also think it makes it really hard to scale back benefits. If the compensation package is competitive, but if you start looking at components of it, then you can make it less competitive than it may already be. I think anybody, it's just the reality, and I don't generate those numbers. Bev Widger does, and her studies, and her work as our HR consultant. And so I think she would say that we're still off in pay. We know what it's like to hire a police officer right now. We cannot hire in highway. The only thing that we could consider doing in highway that we've not done, and selectmen have been reserved to do, is we are not required to have CDL drivers. They don't have to have CDL licenses. We have always said that they need CDL licenses. We don't want them drive, the Mack truck, and they are a good truck. This one is just in the shakedown phase. The Mack truck is a $261,000 vehicle that weighs several tons. It needs to be operated with a certain level of professionalism. You can hurt people, you can damage the truck. And so the problem is there's no CDL driver right now in the Upper Valley that can't make $100,000 a year with their CDL license. And apparently you can't just become a CDL person anymore. It used to be very inexpensive. You had to do the work, you had to study, you had to do the tests. But now it's expensive. You spend thousands of dollars to get a CDL license.
You have to go to driving school now to get a CDL. You can't just go in and test it.
But I think when Travis Marsh did it, he was right on the end. He learned from Robbie and the other guys in town, went and took the test. And
It's
he
like $6,500 too.
right, right, and so, and
It's the
so.
drivers that- Yeah,
And so it's really, and so we are competing with that pool of, and, you know, every day right now, I think about our highway employees. What a miserable job they have through the winter. They can't take vacations. They have to be on call 24 hours a day. They get called in. There is nobody to, you know. In Plainfield, there is no one available to do the next shift. You do the shift until the roads are clear or until we have to say stop, right? Because it just, we can't continue. I think in bigger cities, Lebanon might pull in guys from water, or they might pull in guys from, cemeteries. People, we used to have a cemetery crew and did some of that. But we have no one to come in, so these guys stay, and any one of them can make what we pay them with that CDL license and stay home at night. And so, you know, it's hard. I am very reluctant to cut benefits in any way. And, you know, we lose one more highway guy and we are in trouble in terms of being able to get through winter. I mean, we will not be able to do it. Or at least do it in a way that, I mean, it's just, you know, it is a struggle now. I think what we have, particularly in highway, is we have a significant amount of longevity. And those people like their job, they like being in the New Hampshire retirement system, and they want to finish their careers doing that, so it's helping. But I don't think, I mean, if anything, we should be adding to their pay and adding to their benefits. I don't think we can cut them. And I'll be firm on that at town meeting or any other place that it comes up, because we are living what it's like to try to hire right now in the Upper Valley. And we see it in our PD and we certainly see it in the highway department. I think we've been really fortunate with Sarah, because she grew up here, she has a home here, and she wants to work and close to her home. And so she's able to do that, and that's a nice thing. I mean, you know, she is our future, and the next people we hire for our key positions will be the future for the town. And so that, you know, that's the pay thing. Right now, I put 2.5% in for a COLA, which is, you know, I thought, yeah, doesn't matter. I thought 2.5% in for a COLA. And I've kept benefits as close to what we can keep them as we can. We can't offer the plan we offered last time because it doesn't exist anymore. Health insurance for us is hugely expensive, but it is not the same challenge that the school has, just because we have a group of employees that we buy mostly single and double plans. I mean, right now in police, because of the makeup of our department, we don't have a health insurance cost. We pay out some for them not accepting the plan, but they have plans through other places in their lives. But we can't assume that with the third police officer. We have to assume, and what we're assuming is that it's a double. That it's not a single and it's not a family, it's a double, but it doesn't mean it will be that. It could be anything. The other sort of interesting little conundrum that we have, I think we got a pretty good idea what the highway department costs are. You can look at the object codes on highway, and there's, you know, 40 or 50 different lines in the highway budget that are in the detail. And you'll budget $3,000 for this truck, and Rich will spend $8,000 on it, but you'll budget $4,000 for that truck and we won't spend any. And so that just sort of works itself through. We sort of have a pretty good handle on fuel usage, salt usage, those sorts of things. It's just not a lot there to change. I have to have another conversation with Rich. Sometimes if one of our larger pieces of equipment needs a set of tires, or he knows he's gonna have to have certain work, that impacts the budget. But so far, I don't have any of that information from Rich, so I don't think that's the case. What I have done, so that this gives us a good starting place tonight, the grader, which there's the option of purchasing used, good used. There's the option of purchasing brand new. There's the option of not purchasing at all, but I think even if you hire out grading, a town needs a grader. There's just enough things in the course of a year that you would need a grader. So what I have done is I have added 40 or 50,000 to, I think it was 50, to the capital reserve contribution for highway equipment. as a placeholder to have, because the one proposal we have for leasing the new grader is about $45,000 per year. For 7 years, and then you own the grader, or whatever it happens to be. And we do not have enough money in the highway equipment fund to buy a grader, and we won't have in the near term. So I think where it's a lease purchase, I have a call tomorrow with the Department of Revenue to talk to our municipal auditor about how we're gonna handle that transaction. But at least in this package down here in, oh, I guess it's up here actually. And where's my little slide? It's right here. No, it's down. So, in the highway equipment fund, we usually put $100,000 in the equipment fund. This year I'm showing 150. That 150 could end up down here as a special line. It says grader, could end up in the highway budget, but it's in there so that you know, we're not missing 50. We are, and that was a shock at the end of the year. Because we had not expected to need a grader for at least 3 more years. And so the grader will be talking along to the finance committee about, when they're in at next meeting. The other one that causes this budget a little bit of stress is, and you guys may have heard or seen, or there'll be an article in the paper coming up the next few days. The Lebanon landfill, which not too long ago was $68 a ton, is going to be $155 a ton. This next year, and what you will find in the article is Steve Halloran saying how that is disappointing, and we're sad to see that, but it's Lebanon's asset, and they can do with it whatever they want. We are lucky to be able to use it, and we thank the city for that, and we have to pay. That is just the way it works. We have zero leverage. There is none. Casella cannot haul our garbage to their facility in Vermont. It's against the law. They can't take it to Vermont. They can't take it to Coventry. And they're not gonna haul it to a landfill in Nashua, right? I mean, they're not, and in terms of saving any money. So, you know, the solid waste collection line is at $350 now, just with calculation for the contract cost of living. We go to $364 for the next year, and remember, that's not a firm number, that's a guesstimate, because it depends on how much recycling and what the cost to process the recycling is. But that number gets bigger, it doesn't get smaller next year, and then the solid waste disposal line, right now I'm showing 82,310, because we have a fair amount of room in there. We're not. And I think I've figured out why the 58 is low. It's not low, it's accurate, but we may not have to change the 82, even with the $155 change, because Casella, part of the 364 or the 350 includes, they pay the disposal on the 12 or the 17 dumpsters that we use, because they don't segregate that anymore. So they pay and so the contract, they're paying Lebanon for that, but that will get passed on to us. And so it's a, you know, it's gonna be a struggle. All of the other ones with the new accounting software, one of the things, and we're gonna just about in the next month go through an audit with the new system. The water fund, which we were intending to create and hold as a fund, as a separate entity, a self-fulfilling or self-serving fund, is now a separate fund in the accounting system. And in fact, if you know anything about accounting, you know that intra-fund transfers are a pain. The software does it for us. It knows and makes the necessary adjustments. But, you know, we had estimated that it would cost $80,300 to run the water district. Right now, we're at $55,000. And we'll see how that finishes off the year. We have some bills for things that are outstanding. We'll be over 60, 65, and we may be able to adjust that number down a little bit. One of the things I think Brad and I are concerned about is the water department came with a $140,000 savings account. We are working through that because we're doing good work with things, but things are expensive, and we're trying, you know, Brad talks about that in his report each week or every other week. But we're we feel like the water district rates are maxed out right now. And we're waiting for the asset management study to show us what the water rates should be for the district to be fully self-funding. So we're not anticipating changing water rates in 2026. And if there were any room in here between actuals and what the budget is, then I would transfer that money to a contribution to the reserve fund. Because the reserve fund is shrinking, and right now we have no additional way to fund that reserve fund. It has to come from user fees, but the water rate needs to include money that's going into a reserve fund. Because there will be maintenance items, even if we straighten out the pump house and we get the arsenic treatment right. The tank needs maintenance periodically. We've got that. So figuring out how much money the Plainfield Water Department needs in a reserve fund and figuring out how to fund it is, even though we're hitting the numbers pretty well. And in fact, I think we've got some room. We haven't figured that piece out yet, how to put a contribution in each year to the fund and all. And so.
But we're feeling like, just to make sure I got
Yeah.
this, you're feeling like the rates are paying for the service.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, they
I'm sorry,
are.
There was a lot in there.
Yes, the rates are, we will raise enough money to pay for what we. And what we hope is that we will raise enough money so that we will have some extra.
Yeah.
And that extra can go into the reserve.
Got it.
I didn't say it well, but
No,
yes.
you probably said it just fine.
It's, we're experiencing some things that are sort of fundamental on our wells
Yes,
that are affected, so it's likely we're gonna change our treatment.
Yeah.
Don't know what that's gonna look like yet.
Got
And so, we've got a grant that we got
Yeah.
for the engineering, that will happen the first quarter of next year, I think. And that will start a process where at some point we will get this is for the water you are experiencing now.
Yeah.
Here's the most effective way to treat it. That gives us a whole new sort of environment that goes into the mix of saying, okay, we understand what the rest of our costs are. Now this new thing, this is what the right sustainable rate is. And so we just aren't there yet. But we do know that underlying driver is changing.
Yes.
And that's.
Right, and one of the things that happens is you can sleep really well at night when you have 140,000 in the bank.
right.
You sleep less well when that's 20,000, right? And it's nowhere near 20. We're gonna pull some money out of the water fund, but it is nowhere, I think, whatever I said last week is 30, 25 or 30 grand.
Okay.
We've spent of that, but there are some things that could eat up another 30 very quickly. That might be good for the water district. And so it's just. Everywhere else, we have a reserve fund, and luckily, I mean, the only positive thing. That came from the water commissioners when they handed us the packet and said, here's the water district. Is it came with a check for 140,000.
Right.
I mean, and so that was good.
It wasn't the only thing.
Well, I mean, no,
But that's fine.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
no, I think that, I mean,
It helps.
to give them credit,
Yes.
the two wells.
Absolutely. Yeah, the
The two-
district.
Yes, the two wells in the tank were huge. If you were working with the town and living in the village, when they were pulling water out of the Blow Down Brook essentially through a gravel pad, and they had no tank. This district was very, very different. And so, those guys did good work that way. We got a lot of old infrastructure. We got a lot of stuff in the ground that is very old and needs to be, to
I
work.
have a
And
question about that. I know when the town took it over, there was a lot of overdue bills.
yes.
Is the community doing okay to be able to pay for their water, or should we do a letter?
No, I think most of the ratepayers that we have now, I mean, the reality is we had to write off that debt. It wasn't our debt anyways. And so we sent nice letters out. Barry Schuster said, you can't lien it. It's not yours. Some of those families have turned over and new people are there. I would say that the current water bills, while people grumble, they are paying them. If Michelle bills 20 grand, like taxes, you get 18 and change, and the other comes in. Where we had 29,000 in bad debt, 25,000 from one house, right? And so there.
Well, I want the community to know that if we do fuel and electrical, we can also do water assistance.
Right, right. I mean, talk to Michelle, but I don't think there's a big collection problem. I
Okay.
mean, we've got some folks who, you know, have been trying to nod and wink and say, well, I don't use the system, I don't need it, but then we're like, okay, then we've gotta take your meter away and shut that connection off at the curb. Well, you can't do that, and I may need it in a drought. And so, you know, we've worked through a
Okay.
few of those. As Brad said earlier, the meter work, the big piece that's left there, we were lucky, we found a plumber who had time, try to do that.
Frank's amazing.
Yeah, trying to find a plumber that will come right now, Plainfield Trailer Park. And the thing that you could really help us with, because you have that kind of energy, is you and Shelley and Brad and I, this community block grant, if it ever happens, would be tremendous for because they could make the trailers more energy efficient.
Absolutely.
We could get decent connections for every trailer.
Yep.
The people would save money and the town system would be much easier. Cause we have hit the low hanging fruit, the other 80.
That's where we're at, yeah.
And so there's 31 trailers that have probably 20 of the 31 have horrible connections, right? The new part, the Donnie Goodwin
Yeah, they're
part
not, I mean,
is,
they're fundamentally challenging because it's a building that has an air gap. And that's so they're likely to freeze.
Right.
And then many of them, the
it's
24.
55 gallon drum underneath the trailer.
It's the original 24 are the really tough ones. But again, we have a path. I think we have an idea of how to fix this, and we'll need to get some language in our warrant articles, but that's sort of the next thing. But getting that grant, I'm overdue talking to John at the park because he and I haven't synced up in a while. They were working on the septic stuff this summer, and so it's all right there. I think we can put it together.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I just
It's
think
gonna
it'll be a good
benefit
thing.
everybody.
Right, and the only negative that I have found on it, and it's not a negative, because I think that or the potential negative is the town is on the hook for the money. Right? I mean, the town has to guarantee
Yes.
the loan.
Yes, but I think to their credit, they have
Yeah.
a war chest.
Right.
They've been accumulating it.
No, they've done,
And
they've
so-
run
So
the,
I think the risk is minimal there.
I mean, we have to be part of it or it
Yes.
doesn't be, it's not a community block grant.
Right.
If private entities can't
Can't do that.
do it.
Right.
And so. Again, we'll talk about, with the finance committee, we'll be very interested in the fund contributions. We did spend about $450,000, as I described last meeting, from the various funds that the selectmen have ability to write checks out of. That money, we're getting ready for year-end audit, so we're capturing that money back out of those funds in the next couple of weeks. Any one of those funds, you could add additional monies to and you wouldn't be wrong, right? I mean, it's any one of them is probably underfunded, particularly highway equipment without the grader. But we understand that the taxes are where they are. I mean, you guys were at the meeting. The school district is facing just enormous expenditure issues. I mean, it's just health insurance alone is $500,000. And so it's going to be, a tough year for them, a tough year for us. In terms of next year's tax rate. I think we know that. And so we're doing everything we can to mitigate that. But as I think our critics would say, in highway, we see the effects of that by, we've caught up a little bit now with trucks. We've got 2 brand new plow trucks. It'll be fine. It will be fine. We've all bought the car and had it come home.
We'll bring it back.
Right, but the truck will be fine and the truck will be good. But like the water district, the town has to be careful that we are protecting its assets. Everybody, we're using police cruisers, fire trucks, highway equipment every day, so we are depreciating them every day. And so we need to be sure that the reserve funds are probably the one place in the budget where we can do the most good. But it's hard to put money in a savings account when things are, when people are saying, they're maxed out. But long term, If you're in this town for a decade or 20 years or 30 years, or you're raising your family here, you want those reserve funds. The revenue story is actually quite good, and I think that will save us as we come into the end of the, we get into the robust part of the budget season. Almost every revenue line is up. This is just through, this will be through October. We haven't done, we just, or, yes, October, because November just ended and we lagged a lot less than we used to, but the biggie, other than I always crow about interest on investments with Ann doing our treasury work, is this was one that scared me to death. Would we really raise $150,000 from garbage stickers? And we did. We raised 151, and we've got one more billing of dumpsters, which will add 14,000 or something to that. So I think that while we won't be able to make a tremendous difference, we will have money available next October for fund balance to help soften the rate a little bit. We will grow fund balance this year. The town will be under expended in its budget, and we will have more revenues than we had anticipated. And that will make for a positive audit and should help us going into the next year. We have about 70. I just ran the numbers this afternoon. Was it $73,000 left on the highway reservation, which we're hoping to be able to use as our share of the Grantham Mountain Road Bridge. We did have, you guys approved it a couple of meetings ago. We did bring, Fusen O'Neill has an office that has a person in it who used to work for FEMA. And so she has taken over the project for them in terms of interface. We had a conference call with FEMA earlier in the week. Continues to look, I mean, I think we're gonna get something. The reality is you gotta spend 25,000 to know if you're gonna get anything. And that comes off of, it gets, obviously the cost of the grant, if it comes in, will bring, a couple of $100,000 to put. This is not an expensive bridge, and it is not that difficult a project, but boy, it is difficult with FEMA now. I mean, what they were asking her, but she knows the system, Jan, and so she really did a nice job for us the other day on the call. And I think we got a high likelihood of bringing that project back from the death of the brick program. And so there is some money left there, which we will hold. We had made an unanticipated, I don't think the auditors would say we could do it, but we had reserved. We have unassigned fund balance of a little, whatever it was, $1.2 million in the town of Port, $1.18 million. But we had reserved $40,000 on our own for police in case we were able to get a third officer this year. We never needed that money, and so that money will go back to fund balance. And so I do think that we will build good fund balances. My job will be at the end of, as we go through the next few weeks, is to really see how the expenditure lines line up with the projected lines in the previous years. Or the previous budgets approved lines, and see where adjustments can be made. But I do think what we're seeing right here tonight, just to, my job is to bring you a budget by this meeting, and then we talk about it with the finance committee at the next meeting, and they have a copy of it now. But I think the 124,566 only gets smaller at this point. From our side, the one unknown that I'm aware of is, you heard just a little bit of it the other night, that the Plainfield Town Hall Committee, which we know has done great work, wants to have a conversation with the selectmen about, I think they're interested in knowing your opinions on what amount of money could come from taxation to help the Plainfield Town Hall project. And I don't have that number. I don't even have a guess at that number, so I don't have that built into here at all. That would be in addition to the 124,566. I'm not aware of any other articles that would add expenses to the budget. Nobody has said they want a community pool or anything of that nature, or a rec center. And so I think from tonight on, as we get through December, fine tune the the proposed numbers and get our final revenue numbers in, I think we, in all likelihood, the 124 goes down, I guess is what I'm saying. What I brought in tonight, I think is as high as it could be. Doesn't mean something unforeseen won't happen, it's just the beginning. But I think we work down from here and, you know, try to get that 23 down to 15 cents or 18 cents or some number like that. But we just need to see what the rest of the year brings us. And so that's where I am now. When Elise gets back and we didn't, you know, she's had an issue where she couldn't be with us tonight. You know, COLA, health insurance, that kind of stuff will be discussions that we need to have. We are like every other organization in the operating budget. 2/3 of it are people, right? It's the expense of people. And so the hard good stuff is pretty easy to do. We have a lot of records on that and we know what those things are gonna be. Stephanie, you basically said keep our number the same because you're getting you get a significant amount of private donation
Very generous.
every year that helps. The Shell Fund has been an incredible tool.
It's been amazing.
I mean,
What a gift. Yeah.
it really is. So I have a conversation tomorrow with Jamie Dow, our municipal auditor, with DRA, not Plotzik. And then I'll have more information at our next meeting about how some of these other things are sugaring out. And greater, you know, figuring out. I talked to Ron a little bit about it. I think Rich is investigating loosely a grader that Rob Taylor sent him an email about. But I think we would want buy-in from our construction community if we were gonna buy a grader that was used. We'd want other people other than our own people to say, boy, you're right, that is a good grader. Because, I mean, why wouldn't we want that? You
We
know,
could simply appoint a small study committee.
yeah, I mean, we have no one in our group here other than Rich who has any experience with heavy equipment, right? I couldn't move the grader if you asked me to. And so I could probably, oh, no, I couldn't. And if I got it moving, I wouldn't know how to stop it.
That's right, that'd be a problem.
That would be the bigger problem, probably, so. But that is in our budget next year, other than the costs and things that everybody's fighting with. I mean, we know the issues, same every year. The grader is the one that we didn't anticipate having to deal with, and we do have to deal with it in some fashion. I did have a conversation since our last meeting with Alan Rowell. Talked to Alan, I said, please schedule some time for us in the spring, we're gonna need you. And he was very, apologetic for not being able to get here as much this year at all, I think. That as he did the previous year, but he said he would help.
Okay, great.
He absolutely would help. Rich used Robbie Williams at the end of, I think he would have used them this week, except it's gonna be hard as a rock by Friday morning. But he used Robbie to touch up a couple of roads that was the one he was heading to when the grader had its last moment. I did talk with the state. There is a grant program that might have funded some of the things for the grader, but the hole in the motor block has to happen after the approval, not prior to. And so right now, they have exactly what they want. They have an old diesel engine that can't be used anymore. And so they don't need to buy that one. So that's where I am with the budget for the moment. And I've met, I see Eric every day, I see Rich every day, we have these conversations. Brad, you and Maura, we're gonna try to fine tune water a little bit for me,
Yes.
and
Yep.
you guys are working on that. And so that's kind of where we are with that. One of the things I was asked to do, and I don't wanna forget it, and sometimes I get Thursday morning, I say, oh no, we didn't do it. The plan is, as Bev announced the other day, there is a good chance that the water district, the Plainfield Town Hall Committee might get a grant that would help pay for some renovations to the Plainfield Town Hall. Nothing that can be announced yet, but there is some paperwork for their application that we need to have Ron sign and show. And so Bev asked that we have that done tonight and anticipate, so she can submit it. And so it basically is authorizing Bruce Elder, Steve Halloran, is there a third? Is Bev on there? Maybe Bev's on there too. All of us are allowed to represent the town of Plainfield for the purpose of this grant. And the minutes will show that we took that action, and as long as you're happy with it, then Ron can sign it, and I'll get that piece of paper over to Bev in the morning, and then there was in the please sign, there were a couple of, there's a thing George Hildem actually needed you guys to sign, so he can submit to the state for our equalization study.
So we actually need to vote this, Amy. It's, the individuals listed below are duly authorized to enter into contracts or agreements to otherwise bind the municipality for contractual obligations. And further is or are authorized to execute any documents which may be in his or her judgment to be desirable or necessary to affect the purposes of the Plainfield Village Town Hall project. And the names are Steve, Beth, and Bruce, so we have to take a vote on that, so.
So, I will make a motion that we approve this, certificate of authority.
Okay, in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I'll sign this.
Yeah, thank you.
And this should be nearly identical to the L-chip grant we got last time.
Okay, great.
In the form,
Yeah,
Yeah.
not what we did.
okay.
I just have a question for Steve. There's 5,200, it says care of fund contributions, you got 325,000 there. What does that money represent?
It's, if you look on this sheet here. This second sheet. Maybe it's up the other way. That's fund contributions. So it's the 350, it's actually 375, the old one was 325. It's these numbers right here, Maria, so it's the,
Okay,
so money goes into the highway transportation.
outlay?
Yes, it's those numbers, all these funds get those amounts and they total a little over 300,000. Or a little over 350,000.
So that's money that you've put aside,
Which money are you looking at?
this one, 325.
Right, that's the money that was approved last year, and so that's the expenditure, in other words, the transfer is 325 into those
So all
accounts.
of this,
All of that money went into that money, and that money is proposed to be this money the next
so
year.
we have right now, how much, it says, how much have we used?
But if you look
Steve,
on,
I'm gonna, this is not public
No.
comment time, so if you have a question, either during public comment next time, or if you want to give Steve a call
We
tomorrow.
just covered it just now.
so if you look at trust funds in the town report, that will tell you the value of each of those accounts. Trust funds in the town report.
All right, any other business? Motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are we over at the library next time, or are we not, we're in the budget?
No, the only time we're gonna have one meeting at the library in February, which is the second budget hearing.
Okay,
Otherwise, we're here.
Budget wise,
Yeah,
but.
yeah, yeah.
Didn't know.
The second budget. hearing,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Friday night.
Don't, I mean, the problem is with cloud, is that you're not, you can't call 27 people, but don't like. Be flexible with your time if you need to be. I know you had to put in a lot of hours to cloud.
Well, I did, I failed it too.
Right.
But, yeah, no, thank you.